And welcome to the Chat with Members edition of the Expats Portugal Calling webinar. Carl Munson here, along with Amit and Phil, our stars of the show this evening. Amit, you were great last time a month ago. How are you this evening?
Good. Yeah, I was telling you earlier, I've got some friends coming, first lot, old college buddies. So there'll be a fair amount of Portuguese wine being sampled, I'm sure. Among other things.
And that's, what an exciting moment to be welcoming other people to your new home.
Yeah. And it's a steady stream. So, we've got, I've got my sister and nephew coming later on. And I expect this is going to be a standard thing now.
Yes. Okay. So we might need tactics on how to help guests move through fairly swiftly once the novelty is worn off, and so you get a bit of peace and privacy actually, because once word gets round, everybody will be wanting to come and visit you in Portugal, of course. Phil is also here. Phil, good evening to you. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing quite well. Yes.
Okay.
Enjoying Portugal, and I guess the sunset soon.
Yes, yeah, and I think the first thing we notice about these two gentlemen is how relaxed they are this evening. I've got a feeling it's going to be a very relaxed conversation, unless Portugal score, and then it might be okay, yes, back to the conversation. And Phil, you're in the Obidos area. That's probably the Obidos and Caldas are the largest or most famous places that people will know of.
Right. Yeah, on the Silver Coast, we can, if the trees weren't in the way, we could see the castle.
Very good. Okay. Are you going to be dealing with that soon? Or are you happy for it to be there?
Everyone talks about it, but we're not that fazed by it. The neighbors down the hill don't have the trees in the way, and that seems to improve their property value.
Okay. All right. So that's the Obidos Castle, of course. It's beautiful there, famous for its ginger liqueur, medieval walled village, basically, there. So we'll come back to you in a moment, Phil, if we may, because there were a few things. We just didn't get to all the questions last time with Amit. And I think there are a few things, Amit, that you wished you'd been able to address. Does anything come immediately to mind? And feel free, folks, to put those unresolved issues that we had from last time in the chat, and I'll put those things to Amit and to Phil a little bit later on. A good evening to Laura and Aviva, who've already said hello. Congratulations, Aviva, calling in from New Mexico and beginning on the D7 document process, which may come into the conversation, of course, tonight. So back to you, Amit. And what did we not get round to last time when the members were chatting with you?
Yeah, there were a couple of questions or a couple of comments, I guess. One was a question, but so one was about if you hate the US so much, why didn't you leave earlier? Right? And I think that the basic assumption there is certainly not my intention to communicate that. So I still love the US. I spent 40 years of my life there. I've got 2 American daughters. And, I'll be going back, in fact, in July to spend a month. So I think it's more of a combination of sort of stage of life, getting to a certain age where you say, okay, it'd be nice to have a place where we can relax some more. And some of it was financial, frankly. Housing prices being what they are in the US, we just felt, hey, why not find a place where we can get more for our money and maybe have a slightly better lifestyle, along with, like I said before, having people visit us, because we're not as far as the US from India, for example, or, my mother-in-law's in Germany, can see her and all that. So I think that would be my answer to that question. So it's just, kind of a bunch of factors coming together that made this move worthwhile move for us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for putting that right, because I think you were misportrayed as a bit of a hater, weren't you? But it wasn't that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, obviously there are things that I'm troubled by, and I'm sure you've heard from other Americans about some things that are going on that we don't appreciate. But that's true of any country,
Yes.
right? Any place you are. There's no such thing as nirvana or the ideal location. That's just not going to happen. You're going to like some things and you're not going to like some other things. And sometimes the two are just sort of the other side of the coin from each other. So,
Yes.
you like the relaxed lifestyle. Well, then you can't complain that it takes 3 days, to open a bank account, right? So it's sort of, some of these things go hand in hand. And I think people tend to want all the good stuff all coming together, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I think the other thing that came up last time was somebody said, great to escape the high taxes of California and run off to Portugal. And wait till you pay 23% on every single thing well, not every single thing, but most of the things you buy. And you might not think you've escaped high taxes in California. Yeah. But I think, overall, it's a different system. There are different things being taxed. There, exemptions are different here. You don't get, as far as I know, you don't get a mortgage interest deduction. But at least, if nothing else, the fact that we're renting, we're not now so disadvantaged from a tax standpoint as we would be if we were in the US without a mortgage, right? So it's a different system, different pros and cons, especially in the tax systems. And I think short term, because of the NHR status that you can get, there's probably going to be some advantage. Yeah. But that's, again, it's only on the income side, but VAT is VAT, or IVA, is still paid by everybody. Doesn't matter whether you're NHR or not. So
yeah, that's the tax on spending, of course. And you make a good point there. It's not. There are some advantages, but it's certainly not an all-out tax haven, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Then you have to go to Dubai or some place like that.
Absolutely. And you've managed to really put us off having the idea of expats nirvana there. I think we'll scrap that as an idea. You're quite right. We'll stick to Portugal. Yeah. Was there anything else left over from last time? I'm hoping you'll stay with us and can fill up with some of the questions that are coming in. But was there anything else that you wanted to address?
No, I think those two were the main ones I remembered. There were probably a few others that I missed, but unfortunately I couldn't go back and find those. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're seeing
somebody else had those questions, please ask it again, and I'll be happy to respond.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you see Amit on the screen, say, yes, I know. I wanted to ask him something. Now is this is the time to do it. Laura's back from New York just recently. So much more expensive than years ago. I can imagine, as Americans do. Appreciate the Portuguese prices. Anna's in as well. Anna from the Ask Our Expats team. If you want to ask Anna anything about Cascais, of course. And being a Portuguese person, she holds a special place in our team there. Patty and Hamid, we just received our D7 visas. Congratulations. We were wondering how other people moved their belongings to Portugal from the US. Did you use a relocation service or do it yourself? Now, at this point, we'll come back to you, Amit, on that, because we can talk to Phil. Phil, I think you're in the process of moving things here. Before we go specifically into that, Phil, welcome. Let's say hello to you again. We know you're in Obidos near Caldas. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, how long you've been here and how you're finding it so far?
Sure. A little bit about myself. Let's see. I'm retired early is the kind of the excuse to move to Portugal or the coordination to come to Portugal. Myself and my wife and our 3 cats came, and as a kind of unique flavor of our journey, we purchased a house pretty much from YouTube. And that's we had anyway, it turned out really good. I don't know that I would recommend it, but we were pretty committed to it.
Hold on a bit, because some people just lurched forward on their seats there. Oh, did he just say he bought a house pretty much from YouTube? It's true. I mean, you didn't see the house in person, did you?
Yeah. So Yeah, that's kind of the drama presentation. But so I found it on YouTube. I also spent months looking at houses in Portugal, and Maria and I looked at things and said, yeah, we want this, and we want that, and we changed our minds and turned all the way around. Once we decided on the house, we've worked with Wiley. I believe, was she on this week? Anyway.
Yeah, this morning. Yeah.
And she came to the house. We're in the house now, and did a walk through the tour, and then had an inspector come, and we went through the whole process. But it was, yeah. And I feel relatively comfortable in real estate. I think this is erroneously. I've done lots of real estate in the U.S., and I thought I was going to be comfortable in Portuguese real estate. I'm going to say, if you think that, you should make sure you have a lawyer on your side.
Yeah, because that was a plot twist for you, wasn't it?
So yes, it was definitely.
Yeah,
as well as some of the things that we came saying, okay, it's time to buy the house. It's do the exchange, or they call it going to deed here, whereas in the States you call it going to closing.
Mm-hmm.
And we came in April, and the bank, it was Holy Week, and our mortgage banker was on vacation. And I was like, well, that's one of the reasons we're coming to Portugal. So, right, good on you, buddy. But it did delay our process to the next month, but it wasn't like a big problem. It was just
That's a brilliant.
Not the way I would handle it in the States.
No, I mean, this is a big deal, isn't it? Buying a house, of course, a major life change, moving country, buying a house. And there you are saying, good on you, buddy, for upholding the standard of living and way of life that you would like to subscribe to yourself. So that's a brilliant reframe on that. How soon was that all resolved after the holiday?
So we were back in the States for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And then we showed up here again. It took us almost a month, I guess, 3 weeks to a month to like, okay, this is done. It was 3 weeks, and then we had the house, and then we're warming it up because it hasn't been lived in in a long time. So
okay, great. So the process then, not quite as you anticipated, but all's well that ends well. Basically, it just things were different, things were slower, but the result was the same ultimately.
Right. The direction was, I was like, okay, we're just a little delay game, and it's life saying hello to me. I consider it part of my Portuguese lessons. Most people ask me how my Portuguese is going, and I go, it's going very well. It just so happens I don't know any of the language.
Right. I think some people might want to employ you as a life. I know you've retired, Phil, but I think you might be wanted as a life coach here by people with how you're adapting to the situation so brilliantly. As Jose Guzman was here, because you reminded us there that you brought pets over, and we'll come back to the possessions. I've got you down as quite the expert in bringing cats from the United States, the third of which has just recently arrived this week. Right. So could you tell us a little bit about that process? That's what Jose Guzman wanted to know this evening.
Okay, so the cats, yeah. So, well, there were a little bit of surprises. I think there's almost as much paperwork for the cats as for the humans.
But not a D7.
Not a D7, but you have to have the pets chipped. You have to have the rabies. You have to have the vet off. Then there has to be some time, like 20 days. So we did that before we left the first time. And then the vet does a health certificate or something that has to get sent to the USDA. So this is the US, clearly. And I don't know what they do with it. We still have the documents. But you have to have that at the airport to say, look, these are properly documented pets. And then the most surprising thing to us was we walked in with, we said, okay, we're not going to bring 3 pets at the same time. That was a good idea because we didn't realize that at the airport you had to take the pet out of the carrier while the TSA or somebody inspects the cage to make sure you're not smuggling something.
Yes,
I don't know. I'm not sure what they're doing with that.
Easier with a dog than a cat. we're thinking here, right?
Right. And our third cat, or the Frankie, the cat that's recently here, is not much of a cuddler. Let's put it that way. So we would have been shredded if we were trying to hold him while they were.
Okay, but he's here now, and he's managed that journey.
Yeah, he's here. We work different angles to make that come through.
Okay.
Yep. So, but there's lots of different pieces. We learned that like United wouldn't let us put the animals in the hold. All three cats came in the hold, not on the plane. We actually have large cats, a Maine Coon cat, and they are big enough that they won't fit under the front, in your foot space. I'm also a large person, so I would need my foot space too.
Okay, all right, excellent. So we may return to the cats if anybody wants more detail on the cats, but that's quite amazing. The stuff coming over. I mean, you're not a minimalist. Jim's here talking about how he sold everything. Can't lay my hands on that comment. Oh, yes, I can. We sold or gave away everything before coming, 18 suitcases and 3 cats. That sounds like you didn't give away just quite everything there, Jimmy, but we get the gist. 18 suitcases. That is one way of doing it, is to bring extra suitcases with you as well as your pets. That must have been quite a process, and you'd have needed a lie down after that, I suspect. But you've packed
a big lie down. A big lie down.
Yes. Hello, good evening to you, Jim.
Good evening.
But with you, Phil, we'll come back to you if we made you in a little while, because you've got a fascinating story with the animals, and it's lovely to see you. Maybe you can tell us a bit about Porto as well. But Phil, the stuff you didn't want to give away or sell, is packed into a container on its way. How did you find that process? That was a question from Hamid and Patty as well. Relocation of the stuff rather than yourselves or your
right. We tried to reduce as much as we could. Like we gave a lot. Our friends are pretty happy with us moving to Portugal because they get lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And then so we organized and said, great, we're going to move on this day. And the moving folks showed up, and I think they would have packed the cats if we hadn't said, look, you can't pack the cats. They're just packing machines. It was there are things that I'm actually looking for my wedding ring. I think it's in the container.
Well, because they took it off you while you weren't looking, or while you were snoozing.
It was sitting on the side of the bed, but I'm pretty sure it's back.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like when in doubt, we're like, yeah, it's in the container. It's in the middle of the Atlantic right now. It just so happened. Hopefully, it's floating. Yeah. But they're. And then there was, okay, great. That was like May 2nd that they packed everything. Mm-hmm. It all, I actually have a little photo journey I probably have to put together and post somewhere, because it's very funny to watch the container. It's a 20-foot container get filled up slowly, ding, 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 and all the rooms kind of get sucked out of the house. It was very, it was impressive how much stuff those people could carry. And like, they just picked up my file cabinet that, of course, I look at and go, oh, my back just hurts looking at it.
Yeah,
and hold it down the steps and put it in the file thing. I was like, what?
Amazing. Okay, Amit, so you I think a similar situation, pets and belongings coming over this way.
Yeah, we had one dog, and he was small enough that we could take him in cabin as an in-cabin pet. And and of course we've gone through this paperwork thing before, because we brought our dog to Germany before. And the funny thing is, they make you jump through these hoops about, oh, you have to get this vet appointment, within 10 days before you leave, and then the FDA has to sign off on all this stuff. And you come to this side, nobody checks.
Yeah.
Especially in Germany, they don't bother. You walk out with a dog, they'll probably check your kids before they check your dog. But the one good thing we did was, on the last time we came, we actually got him a pet passport. So we got a European pet passport for this well-traveled dog. And so any vet in Germany, maybe not any vet, but most vets can do that. And then, of course, this time we actually came through Frankfurt. Same thing. They couldn't bother, checking the dog or anything or any paperwork. So all that FDA stuff is, at least in our case, we brought him on I think on Lufthansa. Yeah. So we've brought him on Lufthansa, and the airline didn't check that paperwork either.
Wow.
So all that running around was for nothing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so at this end, we had a little twist. They said, oh, you have to get him checked by the vet, and the vet was missing in action at Porto Airport. Then we came back to them, and they said, where do you come from? I said, Frankfurt, but originally from Washington. So they had a heated conversation. Oh, okay. If Frankfurt let you in, fine, just go.
Wow.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So, and the stuff is also somewhere on the Atlantic, hopefully not in the Atlantic. And we also had a delay, of weird situation where they apparently had the container and the ship in the same location, the same port, but there was no way to load the container on the ship. So I'm guessing the illegal immigrants had all taken a holiday or something. But yeah, so we had to wait for another month, but hopefully now it'll be here soon.
Wow. Okay. So you're both waiting for things to arrive. Maybe we need to talk to you again then in a little while to see how that. But you took the decision to ship stuff via container. So fingers crossed. And how exciting for you to rediscover all those things you've already forgotten about when they arrive at your house.
We're just wondering how many things we'll look at and say, did we really need to ship this?
Why on earth?
Why did we do that?
Yeah. Those old trainers or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Before we go to the more personal, intimate questions, when we turn the recording off, there's a really good question that I think is good for a general purpose viewing for people wanting to move to Portugal. The insurance side of things. Great question that was asked earlier on about how you approach getting insurance. If I can go to you, Phil, for that. The question being asked is, did you use Serenity, who do, I guess, they're more medical case management than insurance, although it's probably worth talking to Serenity sooner rather than later to see what they've got to offer to you. We like working with Nunu from Winsurance, but Phil, what did you do on the insurance side?
So we are working with Serenity and probably asked Nunu for a quote. And so we worked with Serenity saying, great, we need someone to this is the education from the buying real estate. We don't know the system, and so they do, and they're very reasonably priced, especially from a U.S. perspective. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we did to get here. We did something else. I forgot what we did, but while we're here, we're going to say, great, what is it going to look like to have a private insurance policy? And we're going to get 3 quotes and work with Serenity to assess which is appropriate for us.
Ah, that's good. Okay, so it's a fairly new development, of course, that we have Serenity. It's a new business, but people speak very highly of them, and that sounds like a smart approach there to get the 3 quotes and have them help you with that in the decision-making process. So I mean, they'll have a much better idea, won't they, of what you'd be dealing with. Hello, Connie. I probably need you to mute up, and I can't see you on the screen. But we'll come back to you in a bit, Connie, if we may. Amit, on the insurance side of things.
Yeah, we actually got Nuno. We had sort of met or been introduced to Nuno on Expats, and so I talked to him because that was for us Americans, going somewhere without having a definitive answer on health insurance just feels way too scary. And so we talked to him early on, and he said, look, once you have these 3 items, I think it was a NIF and a bank account and something else. So as soon as we had those, when we were still at an Airbnb in Porto, we got our health insurance started, because there is a 90-day waiting period during which not all of the coverage kicks in. You get some partial coverage, and of course, accidents or anything like that are fully covered, but regular stuff doesn't get covered fully.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we've had insurance ever since the first couple of weeks that we were here. And then we also signed up with Serenity, and it's kind of the same Portuguese education that Phil was talking about, right? That we know nothing about the system. We know nothing about, doctors or health, hospitals and quality and weights or any of that stuff. So their value proposition really resonated with us. Said, yeah, we could use all the help we can get, and they're very reasonable. So this is a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. We signed up with them, and they actually, they took a look at the options we were given that cover pre-existing conditions and stuff like that. And one quick thing, by the way, and I guess this is true of most of the insurance companies, but if you pick a plan, you can't upgrade later. You can only downgrade. Oh. And so it's a good idea to look at the plans carefully, and maybe if whatever you can afford, maybe even set aside a little higher budget for the first year to see how it works. And then the other potential hack in this system is that if you get a pretty good travel insurance policy that will cover you in the US while you're traveling there, then at least for us, what that does is it reduces the angst of potentially having to hit, the US healthcare system as an uninsured person.
Ah, very good. Yeah, I like that.
Because that's the surest way to bankruptcy you can find anywhere on the planet. So
when you're popping back to the United States.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Because then you're uninsured as an American. So under the American healthcare system, you'd be uninsured.
Yeah.
And so if anything happens, like a 3-day hospital stay would be like $200,000 and so on. So there's a way to accommodate that through a travel insurance policy, because we were looking at the insurance quotes and saying, I think it was like $250,000 a year in whatever total coverage or something like that. And we were laughing. We were saying, you could do that in a week in the US. What's that going to cover? Yes. It's probably, an elbow sprain would probably cost you that much. So, right. But obviously you have to, again, adapt to, learn Portuguese.
Yeah.
So adapting to the Portuguese system, that will cover a lot actually, because any big thing is covered under your SNS number and the public healthcare system.
That's right. And that's worth knowing, isn't it? It's a couple of things I wanted to add, just so people do have a benchmark. I mean, a family of 5 medical insurance for us is 244 euros a month, of a pretty good standard. So everybody can get an idea of what it costs. And of course, when you do need to have some insurance, but it will also be augmented by the public system, which I think is basically unheard of, isn't it, in the United States, right. And less so by the day, I think, in the UK. So the Portuguese health system is great, and that can be mediated, facilitated for you by Serenity, as previously mentioned. So before we switch off the recording then tonight, the other great question that's come in that you'll both have an angle on, Peter from the UK, who wishes he'd done his move before Brexit. You're not alone in that, Peter. Is asking, I have to get a 1-year lease for my application, of course. So we'll need to rent a place sight unseen. Any advice? Well, Phil can raise you on renting unseen and actually can bought unseen. So that was pretty simple for you, Phil, of course. Owning a property was your means of proving your residency, as in that you had somewhere to live over here. Did you want to add any more to that? How was that process of proving to Seth that you actually owned a house, Phil?
We didn't.
Oh, okay.
We actually, the proof of our residency, we actually have a family friend who lives in the Algarve, and that was a lot of complicated communication, but that's how we, because we didn't own the house. I think the answer would have been if you're buying a house, if you have a promissory contract, that will work. And that's kind of the bridge between making an offer and so forth. But yeah, literally the Portuguese are lovely people, and if you happen to have one of them in the extended family or family friends, I would let people know that you're thinking about moving to Portugal and see if that surfaces something for you, because it worked out quite well.
Yeah, watched last week's webinar, of course, when we spoke to Christina and Gilda, who went into that. That is the third way: renting, owning, and being taken in the best possible way. I mean, in a positive way, by friends or family here in Portugal. Amit, you're on a rental, as you said there. How did you find that process? What advice would you give to Peter?
Well, we had Savvy Cat, Anna's folks, helping us with finding a rental, and we had kind of a cheat for this part because my wife is German, so we didn't need a D7 visa.
Yeah, okay.
And so we didn't need the 1-year rental for that purpose.
So German wife is the answer then, Peter.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the DIY hack.
Okay, right. That's the fourth option. I'm glad I asked everybody. That's fantastic. Okay, so we'll switch the recording off there for now. Do join us in future if you're watching on the recording on YouTube. Join us and come and ask your questions for yourself, and we have loads of them tonight. So thank you so far, Phil and Amit, for that.